Another question I get from people that I am, they end up on my list, and then I realize they're not really sophisticated buyers, and they ask, something wrong with the house. It's another version of, hey, if this was such a great house, why aren't you closing on it? So I want to talk about, there are people who are like perennial worriers. If you're going to be constantly worrying that maybe there's something wrong with the house, this probably is not a good business for you, right? You have to be someone who takes risk and who does the proper due diligence and then moves forward. Now, I can honestly say I bought, 1,000 houses or something. I've never bought a house that had some kind of severe problem on it, so much so that it killed the deal. Now, people are always afraid, well, if I buy this deal from you, like if you're selling it, there must be something wrong with it. And they want to know what's wrong with it. So listen, here's the truth. Now, I am all the way on one side of the worry equation. I don't worry at all, really, about anything. It drives my wife nuts. And I understand there are people who worry. And there's things to look for, right? But I honestly don't... Sorry, I'm playing with the mic. But I honestly don't believe that if you are someone who knows what they're doing, that you can go into a house and get stuck with something. Now, I know that a lot of the gurus online will tell you, oh, you need to do an inspection, you need to look for all these things. But so I understand where in the average, I think the median price in the United States today is like $150,000, $180,000. So if you're buying something for 80 that you're going to plan to put in 30, and then you're going to sell it for that, I understand that something that major that could come up could screw up the whole deal. The only thing is, I've had surprises. I'm not saying I haven't had rehabs that cost more than I expected, or had things that I didn't think I was going to do. But whatever it is, it's $8,000, $10,000 more. That is like 1% of the deal. So it's not going to kill the deal. But if you're in, some place where you're planning to sell for $100,000 and a $10,000 problem comes up, that could kill the whole deal. So you have to be able to. I'm not going to say trust somebody who's hosting the deal to you. I don't trust anybody. I don't even listen to what they say. I don't ask people who are selling me a deal how much it's worth. I don't ask people who are selling me a deal how much work it needs. And I got to be honest with you. If the buyer comes to me and asks me, what's the ARV and what's the repair estimate, I immediately assume he's not a real buyer, because you can't be someone who believes what somebody tells you. You'll be out of business. So, and I don't give those numbers at all. I used to give those numbers when I was a rookie, right? Giving the ARV, the after repaired value, or the repair estimates is always a mistake. It can only hurt you. It can never help you, right? I've had deals where people thought the ARV was $100,000 more than I thought. So if I'm going to tell them my ARV, they're going to start rethinking what they thought. And I've had people who told me that their repair estimates were $40,000 less than what I thought. So why would I give them a number? The numbers can never help, right? If I have a group of buyers, right, I got 30 buyers waiting outside, and they all ask me what it's worth, and I give them a number above what they think, they're not going to believe me. If I give them a number below what they think, they're going to think that they screwed up. And the same thing with the repair estimates. If I give them a number above what they think, then they think they're missing something. If I give them the number below what they think for repair estimates, then they think they screwed. They think I'm full of crap. So the point is that if you're going to buy properties to flip, right, to flip, to renovate, to rehab, you must 100% have to have the ability to comp out a property and figure out what it's worth, what the ARV is, and you have to be able to walk through a property and get an idea, or even from pictures, of what the construction is going to cost, what the renovation is going to cost, the rehabilitation, what that's going to cost. And if you're someone who's relying on what other people are telling you, you're cruising for a big bruising, right? You're headed towards disaster. People are not honest. And I've gotten a deal where the guy told me it was worth like $1.2 million, and I look at it, it's worth like $300,000. I'm like, what? They said, well, there's a comp, and there's one. It's a weird place, and there was one mansion built on the water that sold for 1.2, but all the houses similar to this one were selling for 400,000. If you want to be, so I've had people tell me, well, I don't want to comp it. I don't know how to comp it, right? I'm going to outsource that to a VA. And I tell them, you're crazy, right? If you don't know how, that is not a skill that you possess, you are going to get screwed. Your VA, what if your VA screws up? What if your VA tells you a property's worth 800 and it was wrong? He didn't understand the differences, right? And there's so many differences in our area, right? Block to block can be different, for sure. Huge differences. Size of a lot. Things that people don't even look. One side of the train tracks. I tell people all the time, West Hempstead's a great example, right? There's most of West Hempstead is not on the Lakeview side; it's on the other side of the train tracks. A lot of Orthodox Jews, they'll pay up for a property, especially if it's close to the synagogue. If you don't realize that there's a train tracks and you comp to the other side, it could be $100,000 difference. It could be more. So that's not something that you're going to be able to figure out. Now, that's something you see if you're going to look for train tracks. But if your VA never learned about train tracks, they're not going to know. So, and what's the recourse to your VA if they screw up and you pay $100,000 more than you should have paid for a property? Nothing. Sorry, you screwed up. Let's get better next time. So, I certainly can't imagine outsourcing that to somebody who's not really a part of my team in this country who can do it well. Maybe it's something I eventually can train somebody to do, but it's not an easy thing to do. But you must know how to do it first. So you must know how to do that. So I never trust anything anybody tells me when they're selling me a property, ever. And I'm not saying it's not always true. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes they were right and I'm wrong. That happens. But I don't care, right? I can't take somebody for their word. People are crazy and people are not honest and people are trying to get over on you. So, so what could be wrong? What are some of the kinds of things that I've seen that could be wrong? So what happens a lot is when you do major renovations and you take down the walls, you'll find problems, right? You'll find termite problems with the studs. You got to re-stud things. You'll find issues, leakage issues, right? You didn't realize. You take down the wall and you realize there's been a leak, a slow leak from the upstairs bathroom for a long time. And then you have to, there's rotted wood, you got to change that out. Sometimes you got to change the floor joist. These are things that money makes go away. Not a crazy amount of money, right? I bought properties where I didn't realize there was a crack in the foundation. Crack in the foundation doesn't mean you have to lift the house and put a new foundation. It means you have to repair the crack. I bought a house that I didn't realize had a water problem. It was another $8 to $10 grand to put in a dewatering system, right? They built a French trench, French drain, whatever you call it, and the water got sucked out. I don't know what the hell is going on here. I'm sorry. So these are not things that should kill a deal in our area because our ARVs are $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, right? That deal where they had the dewatering was a $700,000 house. So an $8,000 unforeseen repairs, 1% is 1% additional. That's not killing the deal. So you need to be able, so those are really the two skills that you need to know, right? And it takes time, right? I can walk through a house and tell you exactly what I could repair it for in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean I'm right. Sometimes I'm over, sometimes I'm lower, but I can give you an idea, and I can get an idea what to offer. And I can comp at a property 2-3 minutes 99.9% of the time. Those are things you need to know. It doesn't mean in the beginning you can't get help for it, right? So you can use somebody like me to say, hey, what do you... if you tell me, hey, the house needs a kitchen, it needs 2 bathrooms, and it needs a roof, I'll tell you how much I think that'll cost. I'll also tell you how much I think most buyers are going to estimate for that because it's going to be more than what I would pay for it. And I can look at it and tell you at what point it's a deal. And I do that all the time. People JV deals with me, they bring me a deal, and I say this is a deal at this price, and this is a deal at another price. Now, if you're buying from somebody who's wholesaling, you must know those two things, right? You must be able to estimate repairs, and you must be able to come up with after repaired value. It's just, you must. If you don't, you're asking for trouble. If you're trusting people to give you the right information, you're asking for trouble. So, but I would say most of the things I can usually look at a house and tell you what it's going to cost. Within 10%, I'll usually be right. And it depends, right? So sometimes a surprise comes and you decide you're not going to do as nice a finish in the bathroom, and you're going to save a couple $1,000s because you had a $5,000 additional, to reframe an area where the termites had damaged it or it was rotted wood. Okay, it happens. Shouldn't kill a deal in our area. In our area, like I said, there's enough room in these deals that it could still work. So I've never wholesaled the deal to a guy came back to me and said, "Wow, this took much more work than I thought." I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, the local municipality, the village or the town was much harder on me than I thought." That happens sometimes, but there's no way to predict that. So I would say that there really are no surprises. I show all my almost every property that I wholesale is being sold to people who actually come and see it, and it's up to them to come up with a repair estimate, an ARV estimate, and make an offer, right? And this is a voluntary transaction. I've had millions of offers that were below what I wanted, and I've had plenty of offers that were above what I wanted, and I sold them for it. So it's a straight up situation, and people are always asking me, well, what's the price? Just tell me what the price is. And the answer is always, I'm going to try and get as much as I can for it, which I think everybody should. So there really are no surprises. It's a simple kind of thing where the buyers come up with a number. They certainly have the ability to put in a cushion in case something comes up that's unexpected. I'm not saying nothing's ever going to come up that's unexpected. I'm just saying I've never had something come up on a deal that I did or a deal that I wholesaled that made the numbers blow up to the point where the price didn't work, right? And maybe you made a little less money, but the deal still worked. So I hope this is helpful. My contact information should be on the page. If you have any questions, feel free to call me.